So needless to say, there's going to be some mother box size spoilers in this review. So you've been warned. But again, let me just give you my kind of quick summarization on whether or not I'd recommend seeing this in theaters. If Batman v Superman or Suicide Squad scared you away from the DCEU, I can't see this bringing you back. But if Wonder Woman piqued your interest and restored a little bit of your faith in the DC brand like it did with me, then yeah, I'd say it's worth checking out at some point as like a matinee or something along those lines. Is it a great film? No, it's not going to get any awards. Is it a good film? Not really. It's fine. It's competent. And oh my god, I can't believe that is something of a glowing recommendation from me when it comes to these movies. I joked on my Facebook a little bit earlier after I'd gotten out of the screening, like right after I'd gotten out of the screening, and saying like, well, that was the best big screen adaptation of Injustice video game cutscenes I've seen. I didn't really mean that as a bad thing or like to offend. That's genuinely what it felt like. It felt like I was watching a big video game on screen, to the effect that I really don't have much stake in the actual plot, but it is fun. It is entertaining. There are entertaining things happening. Another plus for this movie, I feel, is that it is 2 hours. It's only 2 hours, and it clips along pretty well at that 2 hour pace. You don't really feel like you did in probably Suicide Squad or Dawn of Justice, where you kind of feel that is a lot of this stuff really necessary. With Justice League, the way it's being presented right now, after all those reshoots and introducing a little Whedon-esque, stuff into the script and into the reshoots, it definitely feels like they jettison a lot of what was originally intended. Because there are moments, and I'm not saying it's a complete tonal whiplash or a complete 180 in terms of the mood that they set in this movie, but there are moments where you kind of feel like, okay, that's a fully developed Snyder scene, and over here is where they inject some Whedon, and over here is where they inject, a little bit of both and kind of balance it out. You do feel that at times, anytime Henry Cavill's CG'd upper lip comes into play, which I will admit, that was a little distracting for me. Every time he was talking, you see this rubbery upper lip moving around like, oh man, dude, you should have just shaved it. Get yourself a mustache, a prop mustache to finish off MI6, whatever. Anyways, enough about the mustache. But it at least keeps going. And it's not like it's relentless. It doesn't feel like a Michael Bay movie where it's just an all-out assault on your senses. The action is pretty well paced for the most part. I can tell what's going on. The visuals really do pop. And when they do have slow moments, when there are softer, quieter moments between characters, they at least are still being driven by something interesting to say. It's not like in Dawn of Justice, where Luthor will go on some tangent about the red capes and piss and peach tea, and you're trying to be like, what is the point of this conversation again? It's not just like esoteric words and stream of consciousness type of dialogue for the sake of sounding lofty or pretentious. Justice League does away with all of that nonsense, and it's just straight up, hey, alien CGI video game boss is coming to Earth looking for these 3 boxes. Batman and Wonder Woman are like, let's get this group together. They get the group together, go fight, and boom, Superman actually cracks a smile. I'm gonna say this is the most I've liked Henry Cavill as Superman in all these movies, and he's had Batman v Superman and Man of Steel before that to try and win me over with his interpretation. Who would have thought Superman coming back from the dead would actually make the guy likable and make him not a miserable asshole, aside from fake CGI upper lip and all that. Performance-wise, everyone is actually pretty consistent, pretty well done. Ben Affleck kind of looks a little morose and exhausted at times, and I can't tell if that's supposed to be Batman or if that's supposed to be Affleck being like, I can't take much more of the flacking I'm getting on, these DC movies. It kind of fits with the character. They do address the fact that Batman shouldn't be the one forming this team. He at one point says, he's like, I shouldn't be doing this. Superman could have done this way easier than me, and admits that it's because Superman's more human and more humane than he is. At least they incorporate that little bit of, I guess, the fanboy disappointment into the actual story, saying like Batman's the outsider, he's the loner, he's not the one who's supposed to be rallying everybody. I do like what they do with some of the characters. Wonder Woman, like, her and Bruce Wayne have like this. It's not romantic tension at all, really. They're kind of like compatriots, and Batman's always really trying to push her to take more of an active leadership role because he certainly doesn't think he can. He doesn't think he can do the job, and so there's a little bit of a mini arc of her kind of stepping into more of a leadership role, I guess, and that's kind of cool. And Gal Gadot is still really good as Wonder Woman, even though this isn't like her solo movie where it drives a little bit more of the emotional stuff for her. Ezra Miller, I was a little apprehensive about, just because all the scenes that were being shown in trailers and stuff appeared a little too jokey or too, you know, like, oh, he's in it for the yucks, as it were. He is still kind of a jokester in this movie, but at least I was dreading like Jar Jar Binks levels of annoyance, and he doesn't even really get that close to it. There's a point at a certain time where Aquaman is like having it out against Cyborg, and he has like this kind of misplaced line about his blood sugar or something like that. It is awkward, and I don't feel like it was awkward as it was intended to be in the scene itself. Like, it just felt like an awkward line to have after this kind of venomous face-off between these two teammates. But that was about the only time his humor really felt out of place. Other times, he does well with the material that he's given, where it's a lot of like reaction to stuff. And it makes sense with this iteration of Barry Allen because he is the kid of the group. He is kind of having his eyes open to this amazing world of superheroics and aliens and things like that firsthand, up close and personal. So whenever he does one of his slow-mo fast sequences and he has like this wide-eyed expression on his face, it's, you know, it's earned. It makes sense for that character. There's actually a pretty cool like stare down between him and a freshly resurrected Superman, where Superman's kind of not in his right headspace and he's taking on the League because he's angry that he got brought back to life. He's shooting like daggers at Barry as he's running in this slow motion thing, and Barry's just like, oh crap, here he comes. Like, I kind of like that. I like those little character moments, like I said, either in the actual action sequences or when they're just having conversations with each other. The conversations in this movie, this quieter moments in this film where you're focused more on just seeing how these people work off of each other, it actually works. The chemistry is pretty decent between the principal cast. Jason Momoa as Aquaman, he's fine. He's kind of just the stereotypical brute of the group, I want to say. There's a cool kind of scene where he gets a little emotional, but there's a good reason why he gets emotional, because even when he was kind of breaking down barriers a little bit and admitting some things, I'm like, this seems way out of character for Aquaman. But then when you see the punchline that's delivered at the end of it, it makes sense. Ray Fisher as Cyborg, he does fine too. He's wooden, but it makes more sense than it does for something like, say, Ghost in the Shell earlier this year, where he's part human, part cybernetics, brought on by these mother boxes, and he's kind of fused with this technology. So it makes sense that he would sound a little detached at times. I'd say out of the whole movie, he's the one that gets the most complete arc, because he's still going through a lot of his changes. He still doesn't know what is in him with regards to his technology and how it's responding now that the mother boxes have been activated on Earth, and his integration into them and his fears about that. So I'd say out of all the League members, he's the one who has kind of the most well-rounded arc. There's not much with regards to story arcs in this film, honestly. Objectively speaking, it is a mess, but at least it's a watchable and fun mess. It's not an editing nightmare like Suicide Squad was, which is kind of ironic because I feel Justice League went through way many reshoots than Suicide Squad did. So it's kind of amazing that this movie is a little bit more coherent than that one. But I guess that's what happens when you actually have an editor edit the movie as opposed to a movie trailer company. It embraces more the adventurous stuff than its predecessors have, except for Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is still the high mark in the DC movie universe pantheon, because that actually has the perfect blend almost of humor, of romance and drama and action. This one embraces more of the comedic and action opportunities, with some pretty interesting small moments of character development here and there to at least get you excited more about the potential solo movies to come. The Miller Flash standalone, now that I've actually seen him in action, I could say like I got a genuine curiosity about seeing how they pull that off, especially since I've kind of grown out of the CW show as time has gone on, as it's settled into its soap opera teen drama CW stuff. I want to see what maybe not a dark mature Flash storyline could be, but what, you know, a big screen adaptation could pull off probably. The James Wan Aquaman, I'm curious now to see what they do with that, especially since apparently Atlantis is a hop, skip, and a jump away. Honest to God, if they keep this chipper Superman involved in the proceedings, if they ever do a Man of Steel sequel, a proper Man of Steel sequel, and they have this interpretation going for it, yeah, I'd go see that in the theater. Just ditch that silly digital upper lip. A couple of little Easter eggs that, you know, worked for me. It kept me kind of rooted in the entertainment side of the film, at least. Danny Elfman is the composer for this film, and as soon as I saw that, I'm thinking, oh, does that mean he's going to be bringing in certain motifs for certain characters? And sure enough, you get a taste of old school Burton Batman music when he's running to answer the bat signal for the first time in the film. And that was kind of a cool little audio Easter egg for me. When you see Superman fully realized, you hear the da-da-da-da-da very briefly. For you Teen Titans fans out there, Max, Cyborg does let out a booyah at one point. It's heavily flawed. I don't care much for Steppenwolf, the villain. And like I said, the visuals, while kind of cool, they do feel like a big oversized video game, so any sense of or semblance of reality is kind of taken out of the spectacle. Everyone, when they get into full-on battle mode, they do look like CGI puppets. But my brain kind of shut that out and just embraced the stupidity of it. Like, it's not good, but at least it was entertaining. I'm willing to kind of accept Justice League as mindless fun. It is kind of mindless fun. It's got some dashes of good ideas and good character moments throughout, but I think this version, or this interpretation of the film at least, embraced the sillier aspect and just went for it. Is it going to be on my best of? No. Is it going to be on my worst of? No. Probably not. I was perfectly fine with this. I wasn't bored, at least, and wasn't annoyed that much. There is one thing that annoyed me at the very end of this movie. One thing. I could accept that people just globe-trot all over this thing, like this past season of Game of Thrones. People are just in Russia all of a sudden when they were in Gotham. Fine, whatever. Everyone's got superpowers. You got a guy who travels at the speed of light. I'll accept it. That's no problem. What I won't accept is that Clark is back as both Superman and Clark Kent, and no line of dialogue given as to, hey, we had you declared dead, both as Superman and Clark Kent. How are we going to solve this? So it's kind of left up in the air, like, does he even have a secret identity anymore? Because at the very end, you see him walking around, he's still got the glasses and the trench coat, and he does the whole, rips open the shirt to reveal the S. Does he really need to do that anymore? Lois, like, straight up said his name in front of a couple of cops. Yeah, Clark's back from the dead, just hanging around without his glasses, and people are moving shit back into his mom's house, and the one question he asked Bruce Wayne is, how could you afford to get my mom's house back? Not, hey, can you help me out with this whole resurrecting my secret identity thing? That was the one thing that genuinely kind of perturbed me at the end, is like, okay, how do you explain away that these two people came back at exactly the same time, supposedly from the grave? Whatever. This is a movie where it kind of jettisoned any semblance to reality, so maybe I just have to go with the flow on that. There are post-credit scenes. One, a genuine character developing moment. The other one gave you a taste of that Eisenberg kookiness that irritates or Makes you feel awkward about his portrayal of Luthor. But then there's a payoff with that too for a couple of you diehard DC fans who want certain characters to come to the big screen with certain actors attached to them. Magic Mike, Judas Contract, that's all I gotta say. If you want, go check out Justice League. It is... I'd equate this to Valerian with regards to my level of enjoyment. I'm enjoying it purely just for the aesthetic of it than I am any actual story moments. There are interesting things done with the characters at certain times. The visuals do pop, and the action is pretty solid, but you're not going to go in for any deep investment in the story of the League coming together. Superheroes get together, save some people, destroy a bad guy. I'm okay with it, surprisingly. Let's see what else is in the chamber for DC.